What's going on, everyone? This is Stephen Place with Insiders Exposed, and today we are going to talk about the bathwater setup and how using that setup aligned with our insider trading activity can lead to stocks and companies that have massive upside because all the bad news is getting priced in, right? So a bathwater setup, the best example I have is if you go and you take a look at how Apple traded during the tech wreck in 2018, right? So that was when the Fed was getting way too over aggressive with their interest rate hikes and tapers and things like that. And the tech sector just took a massive dump. And Apple sold off something like 30% high to low. And then in the midst of this crash, they came out and the company said that they were not going to report iPhone numbers. And I think they did a guide down on earnings. That led to a nasty gap down, and that was the low. That was it for Apple because they threw out as much bad news as possible all out at once to just get it all out of the way. So you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater effectively, where you're dumping out all this bad news to try and get everything priced in as much as possible. Okay, so those kinds of setups are, they don't come around very often. Most of the time what'll happen is if, a stock sees a sell-off and then you get a gap down on an analyst downgrade, which isn't really material news, that can be a short-term trading low. But when it is aligned with some of the fundamental news around a company, that is where we get excited. Now, at Insiders Exposed, we follow the best traders on the planet. Those traders, those investors that know their company's stock best, the insiders. It is completely legal. They just are required to disclose it on a Form 4, which is available through the SEC. So when we see insiders buying, and then we get a really bad news event, they just throw all the bad news out there, but the insiders are buying right before or right after, this is when we want to start paying attention, especially if you have a lot of insiders buying, known as a cluster buy, or if we get first-time buyers, or if we get an insider who has consistently sold the stock and all of a sudden they start buying again. So all of that is happening at once with the company I'd like to showcase today. So this is a chart of the company's insider transactions. And as you can tell, we've continued to see insider sells through 2020 and into 2021. And then all of a sudden at the end of last year, for the first time in years, we saw insiders actually buying on the open market. Okay. And this is what it looks like. This company has, it had a really nice run from Feb to April in 2021. It is in the biotech sector, so biotech was running hot. Since then, it's been cut by a significant amount. So it peaked out around $21 a share. It's currently trading, sub 7. So it's going to have to triple to get back up to those levels, which is entirely possible. That's kind of what we're hoping for here. But it has not been a good run for the stock. So out of nowhere, we have two directors from the board of directors of this company buying stock. You've got the CFO buying stock. You've got the CEO buying stock, all adding size. This comes after a bit of a bad news event at the beginning of December. Now, January 4th comes along, and they revise their earnings numbers. And I'll tell you what, it's ugly, man. It's pretty gnarly. And the expectation then is that the stock will continue to the downside because a lot of the bad news from the company side, from the fundamental side, could lead to further bleeding. But that's not what the insiders are doing. They are buying before, and I have a feeling they have to buy before so they don't get in a lot of trouble with respect to things like, we're just throwing all the bad news out and then we're buying to try and time it a little bit. So that can raise a couple red flags and things like that. So they all buy. They know the bad news is coming. They're buying beforehand, and then the stock sees a little bit of a push to the downside. All right. It's since then started to recover because most likely it's a bathwater setup. They're just getting all the bad news out of the way. It's at a good price, and then they can, once they have reframed the expectations of the company and they shift the narrative, that's when you get that kind of turnaround story. Okay. You also have those two arrows, and you can't exactly see what's going on right there, but you have the president of the company who for years okay, for years has sold the stock, vested options and sold the stock, and has just sold and sold and sold until right now. And the president of this company is actually going out and buying the stock at a pretty decent clip. So you have, what is this? 4 insiders who are buying into the bad news event, 1 other insider that is buying the blood after the bathwater setup, and they are all basically required to be stuck in the trade for at least 6 months. Otherwise, they forfeit all their profits. All right, so that's how the insider game works. So you have a lot of the company's best traders, the ones that know the company the best, all putting in size at lows. If we are to see just a normal retracement, I'd say around $10 a share. We're currently trading at about $7, so it's a $3 move on a $7 stock, right? That's I can't do math in my head while talking, but that's about 40% gain just on the stock, right? And if we see a continuation and a push, we've got a gap fill at $15, all of a sudden you're looking at a quick double. And that's just on the stock. We're not even talking about options with leverage and things like that. This is a very compelling story. It's a turnaround story. Biotech as a whole has not traded well for a multitude of reasons, but I am continuing to position into these names, not because I think biotech's bottoms, but because all the insiders do, and they're willing to put up serious capital to do it. If you want to see exactly how we trade with insider transactions and the key screeners you should look for and the key traps to avoid, there is a complimentary masterclass where I step through everything we look for. You'll get a ton of case studies and you can see the power of insider trading. From there, you can then join Insiders Exposed. And this is the service where I do everything for you. I do all the research and my team helps me out. And we find the very best insider trading opportunities that afford you massive upside. You'll get a special offer at the end of that class, so you can come join me and I can help you build generational wealth through these insider trading opportunities. That's all I got for today. Thanks so much for watching. Register for the class below. Have a great day.